Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Amy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Please introduce yourself and the name of your business.
My name is Amy Feller, and my business is called Roofer Chicks.
Awesome, awesome. We look so much to hearing about your story. We understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, it's been a journey for sure. It's not where I really planned on ending up. But so during college, I went to Iowa State University. I ended up getting a degree in logistics, which is a business degree, and also German. Discuss. And while I was at Iowa State, my older brother Scott was also attending the same university, and he started a roofing crew. And so we roofed during the summer. It was a great way to make money. We were young and fearless, and we did roofs that other people were scared to do, and we made good money doing it. And then we both ended up graduating about the same time and getting what we call real jobs, and left the roofing behind, of course. Like, never thought that was a life path or anything. So we both got jobs in corporate America. We both ended up after 2 years being pretty unhappy with our jobs. And I was working in a union environment for Caterpillar in Illinois, and he was building prisons in Iowa. And he called and he said, I just went down and visited Texas with my buddy, and in Austin, it's booming. Let's go down there and start a general contracting company. So threw everything in a U-Haul, drove down to Texas. He rented a house. We lived in one house, and we started this general contracting company, and I would call it a complete disaster.
Okay.
The labor market was a lot different in Texas than it had been in Iowa, and a lot of things happened, and we were young, and to me, I would say we went bankrupt, like, technically. And after 2 years of doing that, I was miserable because I couldn't pay my bills, and that gives me anxiety. It doesn't seem to bother my brother. I went back to corporate America, and he went on doing the thing. And so I went to corporate America. I worked for Airborne Express, got bought out by DHL Express, and then I ended up at Coca-Cola. And in 2012, I was a single mom of a 4-year-old. And I was working at Coke, and my boss was a bit of a tyrant, and I was working 12-hour days, and then I had an hour commute on both sides of that. And so I was really only seeing my daughter awake for 30 minutes a day, because by the time I picked her up and got her home and fed her, it was her bedtime. And I was making okay money. I could pay the mortgage, but it wasn't great, like $60,000 a year, which is better than some. I just thought there had to be more to life. So I called my brother up crying, and we'll probably get to the full story of that later. But he said, well, he had been trying to get me to come back into roofing, and I had been telling him no. And he said, come back to roofing. And again, I said, no, that was awful. That was awful too. And he said, well, I promise I'll pay you this time.
Okay.
So he promised to pay me every 2 weeks, and yeah, I jumped ship, right?
Awesome. Was this where you had to relocate when you got back into corporate America? Did you have to leave from Texas, or were you still in Texas?
Well, I was still in Texas. So we moved in 2000, we moved to Austin, and I just kept drifting further south. So I'm in a town called New Braunfels, which is in between San Antonio and Austin. We're kind of the midway point. It's a nice place to be. And so I did that not because of work, but because I fell in love.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that was our halfway point. And
Oh.
my daughter's father, who I ended up not being with, is how I ended up being a single mom. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I got you. Now, as you were explaining your story, you said you went into corporate, and it just seemed like the environment wasn't a great one for you. And, there are a lot of challenges that you had. Was there a specific event that happened that made you say, you know what, Amy, I'm just going to get out of here, and I'm going to go back and burn the ship and go all into this new business? Was there an event that happened?
There's a few things. I really struggled all along in corporate America with decisions being made all the way at the top by people who aren't even at your location. and telling you how they want you to do your job, but they don't have firsthand experience, and
Hmm.
so it doesn't make sense, and
Right.
you just have to do what you're told even if it doesn't make sense. And I struggled with that a lot.
Hmm.
uh, but when it came down to it, I had switched bosses. My previous boss had been pretty great, and then they did a restructuring, and I ended up reporting to another guy, and he seemed to want to pick fights with his staff, and just I'm the boss, my way or the highway.
Hmm.
Sitting in the parking lot, making sure that you're not 1 minute late, and bringing it up in a staff meeting if you were, and just real confrontational.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of the joy out of work.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
my coworker and I had found out a way to make it so we weren't working 12-hour days. One of us would open and one of us would close, and that seemed to be working really well. And he said, "No, you both have to be here the whole time." And just the hours were a lot, but the straw that broke the camel's back, is that how it goes?
That's correct.
So I had to do route rides, which I enjoyed doing with my drivers. I was a supervisor of 8 drivers, and I did route rides, which I enjoyed. And I was going out with my very slowest driver. He was just awful slow. I tried to write him up, and HR wouldn't let. He always did a little bit less than the bare minimum,
Mm.
and so
Hmm.
HR wouldn't let. I couldn't do anything
Okay.
with him
Okay.
or with him.
Hmm.
And so I already knew it was going to be a late night, and I wasn't going to be able to pick up my daughter from daycare that night. And then as we're pulling out onto the main road, his truck broke down.
Oh no.
And so we had to get towed over to maintenance. And that doesn't mean you don't do deliveries that day. That just means add 2 more hours to this already day,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, and I just had it, like,
Hmm.
just had it.
Yeah. Say enough is enough. I'm tired of this micromanaging. I'm
Yeah.
tired of decisions being made way above me. You don't have boots on the ground. How are you telling me something from, the ivory tower up
And
there?
also, too, the only way I could get promoted there was if I had a background in sales, and I had no sales experience. And no
Okay.
matter what I did to try and convince them to let me try sales, I even said I would take a demotion and get less pay.
Hmm.
They wouldn't let me do that. And so I was just stuck. There was no place to go.
Yeah, yeah, it was a brick wall there in front of you that you really couldn't get around. So, hey, look, you went ahead and, gathered all of that gumption and said, hey, look, I'm going to get back out here and, get into this entrepreneurial world. So, we're excited about that. We're always excited to hear when a business owner steps off of the curb, or I like to say gets from under the corporate umbrella and tries to see what's out there. So, tell us all about your roofing company and what it is that you do and how you're helping the people.
Well, back then it really felt like I was walking off a cliff. Uh, and and honestly, I told my brother I didn't want to be an owner. I just wanted to be paid. And
Hmm.
so I didn't have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
And we were in business about 2 years, and he and his wife, who was also a business partner, gifted me ownership in the company. And I was super flattered by that. And they gave it to me because I had been working so hard and I was really part of the team. But I didn't put a lot of thought behind what that meant.
Okay.
And so I don't think I behaved as an owner should behave once they gave me ownership. And a couple of years after that, we ended up really butting heads. And we got in a huge disagreement, and they threw me out.
Oh, oh
Or I
no.
left. I don't know which, but
Okay.
both, we were both mad. And so that is when I truly became an entrepreneur, because I had to decide what I was going to do. And
Hmm.
they're up in Round Rock, which is north of Austin. So, and I'm really closer to San Antonio. And so we ended up splitting the company kind of in the middle along a geographical line. And I took $1 million in business, which is great,
Hmm.
but I had no means to do it. So I didn't
Mm.
have crews. I didn't really have trucks. I had a couple, but they were not in great shape. And I didn't really have salespeople. I didn't have staff in the office to answer the phone. Just, I had 10 days to get out and get all my stuff and
Yeah.
get going. It was a very difficult time in my life. And when I had time, I would do soul searching. Like, is this really what I want to do?
Hmm.
Run a company? Like, and,
Hmm.
but I felt like I didn't have a choice because I had all these customers waiting, expecting, they had signed contracts, and I, I needed to fulfill them. And I didn't want to go back to corporate America, obviously. And so just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit of how you overcame that challenge from the beginning. You had $1 million worth of business to service, and you didn't have the infrastructure, sounds like.
Right.
Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about how you were able to overcome that.
It wasn't pretty.
Okay.
It wasn't my best season. I had two really good friends, and I don't think I could have got through it without them. One was my sales rep at ABC Supply Company, who extended me $200,000 worth of supplier credit based on nothing,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think I could have done it without that. And I don't know why he did that. It was crazy. It wasn't a good business decision, really, on the part of ABC.
Okay.
And then I had another friend who was a friend, and he just kind of helped talk me off the ledge. I knew him from a real estate investment group, and between the two of them, just a lot of advice. And gosh, they're so patient. I must have talked their ears off, but just, telling me do the next thing, do the next thing. And so get the liability insurance, get the supplier credit, get somebody to answer the phone, and just kept doing the next thing. One thing I didn't worry about back then was marketing. That seemed like way down on the scale of what needed to be done. And so when I split, we were Feller Roofing and Remodeling with my brother,
Mm-hmm.
and I just became Feller Roofing of New Braunfels. We also thought that might make it look to the world like we weren't actually fighting, because people don't want to do business with companies who are
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
upset.
Yeah.
So,
Internally. Mm-hmm.
and I had Cruz. He he gave me some, or gave, whatever. I had some crews that weren't very good.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty awful, and so there was a lot of cleaning up and making things right. And I wish I could go back and redo some of that now, but you can't. It's just how it happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just knocking it out and getting through it. And yeah, 8 years later, that seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like there was a lot of events that were out there that was building your character. Again, sometimes you come
Yes.
into situations and it is a silver spoon situation. With this one, it seems like you had to go down into the earth to find the silver and then try to make it
Yes.
into something. So it seems like you've overcome. I was able to do some research. Looks like websites come along pretty good now. So tell us, when did the name change happen, and tell us about that transition and how things started to flow for you.
So women in roofing are pretty underrepresented, if you can imagine. They make up 5% of the roofing industry as women, and labor is only 0.5%. And always had in the back of my mind that I would like to be able to bring more women into the industry. And in 2020, I don't know why, in the middle of COVID, I just I got really excited about it. And I went into a mom's group and said, what do y'all think? Am I crazy? And they really gave me a lot of encouragement and even some names of young ladies who might be interested. And so I started in 2020 to try and get women on the roof, swinging a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I already had them in sales and I already had them in the office, but getting them on the roof with a hammer. And then, and also with that, I had always had roofer chick in the back of my truck. My brother did it as a joke, like way back 2013 when wraps were just really coming out for
Mm-hmm.
trucks. And so around town, around my town, I was already known as the roofer chick.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody called me that. And
Mm-hmm.
so in 2021, we decided just to rebrand and just make it Roofer Chicks. And some of the reasoning behind that, it's more catchy, it's more fun, and I'm more fun. And it's also easier if I ever wanted to sell or franchise. It seemed better to get my name off of it. Also in the roofing industry back then, not so much now, but still quite a bit. Every company out there was either somebody's first name or their last name, roofing, with a little house over the top for their logo. It was
Yes,
everybody,
that's right.
and I was no different, and I wanted to be different, and I wanted to bring in some pink. My brother had always said no pink, and
So I'm gonna show you.
yeah,
So
hot pink.
So now you got Roofer Chicks coming along. Tell us a little bit about, that ideal situation and the services that you're providing, the types of roofs that you guys are taking care of. Tell us all about the business and what you have going on.
So basically, if it's a roof, we do it. we do a lot of shingles in our market, and then prime metal is the next one. But we also do TPO, which is a flat roof commercial product, PVC, uh, modified bitumen, which is also for flat roofs and often used in residential. We do tile repairs. So if it's a roof, we do it. Currently, at this point in our story, we are about 90% residential and 10% commercial, and we don't do any GC work. We only do commercial work for single owners. And as far as the residential goes in roofing, there's new construction and re-roof. We're a re-roof, we're not new construction. So we do re-roof and we do repairs. So full roof replacements and repairs to get you some more years before you have to replace your roof. And I've tried other things, like I tried handyman services in 2022. I tried getting into windows a couple of times, and really just decided we're good at roofing and we're just going to stick with roofing, and that's what we do.
Now, I know you're out there in Texas. Tell us a little bit about your preferred geographical area. What areas do you like to cover?
So we're in New Braunfels, and our general rule of thumb is that we go an hour around from our office, which means that we'll go all the way up to the south side of Austin, and we go pretty far into San Antonio, but not the far west side.
Okay.
So, and then we go all the way out to Bernie, which is a little town out to the west, and we kind of end in Seguin, Luling out to the east, just because there's not a lot out there.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, and yeah.
Now with it, you've explained to us the different types of roofs that you do, the ones that you're trying to get in front of the geographical area, and we would love to get you in front of that homeowner that needs that roof, either replacement or repair. But we also do a lot of networking, and with doing networking, you have referral partners that send you over opportunities. Who would you say is a good referral partner for you that sends you over opportunities?
Some of our best are realtors, and not all realtors, but some realtors. Some realtors make us chase our tail and we never get any work out of it. But the ones that actually refer us to either buyers or sellers, that's a really great relationship. We also work really closely with an insulation company, developed that relationship in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And just because we run into, they're already in the attic blowing insulation and realize that it's not ventilated or it could be ventilated. And so that has been really good. And I do a lot of networking in my community. That's a big part of my marketing. Chamber of Commerce, I'm a Rotarian, and some other groups like that. And so we end up getting a lot of work out of the community. And those are usually the types of people that we want to do work for too, that it works well.
That makes a lot of sense. I was talking with a roofer, and, we're here in Georgia, a lot of rain, a lot of heat. And they were talking about those black squiggly lines that get on your roof. Do you guys have that issue out there as well?
Yes, the algae is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that happens here as well. If you're ever lost and you don't know which way is north, it's the side with all the black on the roof.
Okay.
So,
That,
it generally grows on the north side of the home, and that can actually be cleaned,
okay.
and not that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You use we call it a soft wash. You don't want to power wash it because you would blow all the grit off the shingles and ruin it, which people have done. It's a soft wash, and it's bleach, right?
Okay.
And whatever else, but mostly bleach and water. And you just put that on the roof and then use a garden hose and just lightly rinse it off when you're done.
You guys provide that service as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to highlight that because I was just talking with one, and I said, well, I know it's a different environment. It's different weather out there than it is here because it rains in the morning.
Well, we get the hot part,
Okay.
same as you do.
Okay.
We don't get the rain part so much, but it is very humid. Very.
Okay,
It's
very
not like
humid.
Arizona here. It's very humid. So yeah, the mold grows, or not mold. We don't say mold. That's a bad word.
Yes, I got you. Algae. We're going to call it algae. Now, after talking with you and you sharing about your journey going from doing the roofs in college to going into corporate and then, doing a whole big change coming down to Texas and then dealing with the business, I'm confident that over that time you have acquired and nurtured some business skills or some best practices that now make you smile when it comes about the roofing. Because at first you was like, what am I doing? But now things are coming along pretty good. Do you mind sharing with the audience some of those best practices that have helped you to reach some success?
I think, well, I'm super grateful that my college background was in business. That was kind of an accident because I never planned on owning a business. I just ended up taking business, and I got my MBA because it was easier than engineering, honestly.
Okay.
And so that's really come in handy. Understanding how to read financial statements, that's super important. Understanding how to read financial statements, and I've definitely gotten better at it. This is practical application, and I've learned the hard way to get involved in my books and to be in there and see what's going on because I've had people take money from me. Um, I've also learned litigation skills. I decided like 3 or 4 years ago to quit being afraid of people who are trying to bully me and like I mean, we can go to court, and I do very well in court, and I actually really enjoyed that, except the anxiety, but
Yes.
but the rest of it, like I do well in court, and that's been fun. It's been an interesting thing to learn how to do. And then I would say my marketing, I've really enjoyed marketing, and I didn't really see that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But so I have I don't use a marketing company.
Mm-hmm.
I have a company, a friend now, I've been using them for 12 years, that does my website, and we work together on that. In fact, we're going to meet this morning and kind of talk about where we're at. But I've been writing my own web page instead of using an out of the box solution. I've been rewriting it one page at a time, trying to make it useful and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then like all the different things, we're trying a little TV right now. We're doing some radio right now, billboards. I took over my social media. I was paying somebody to do that, and it just seemed like a lot of money going out the door, and I like Facebook. I can do
Yes.
that. So, been doing a lot of that this year. So
How often do you post, or how often do you suggest that you post on your social media since you've been getting into it?
so I don't think that social media is necessarily a lead generator,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of why I think I should quit spending money there. We do try and post Monday through Friday every
Okay.
day on our
Okay.
business page, but very few people interact with your business page.
Mm-hmm.
And across the board, that seems to be true. There's very few businesses that get a lot of engagement out of their page. So this year, I've learned to go into groups, like local groups,
Mm-hmm.
and post in there. And that seems to get a lot more traction. And I've been learning what works and doesn't work just by posting. And one thing I've had a lot of fun with this year, it's ridiculous, but one of my guys pulled a metal donkey out of the landfill,
Mm-hmm.
and and he named him El Pinche Burrito. I can't roll my R's, but
Yes.
and anyway, we've had so much fun with him, taking him into other businesses and promoting their business, promoting our business by promoting their business, and the community has really enjoyed that. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun with that. And so just trying different things, trying to see what drives engagement.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, because, other business owners, they're curious on different things that work. Right now, you're testing the waters in a bunch of different avenues when it comes to your marketing. Like I said, the TV, the billboards, more engagement on the social media. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that, because other business owners need to hear that it's okay to try new things. Now, definitely appreciate you sharing about your journey, the business, those business skills. But I want to kind of turn the corner just a little bit and talk about Amy, because we've talked a lot about your business journey. Now, let's just say that things are coming along well. You are getting all of those roofs redone, getting those repairs, making sure the algae's not on there. And then time and money is not an issue at all. What is it that Amy would do with her time?
I love to travel, and I actually do quite a bit of it. I don't think that traveling necessarily has to be crazy expensive. There's a lot of ways to do it inexpensively. And during COVID, I got scuba certified, and my husband is certified too. And so I love the scuba, which obviously I can't do in New Braunfels, Texas. I also love the snow ski, which you
Okay.
can't do in New Braunfels, Texas. So we end up going to Colorado once a year. This summer we're planning to go to Europe. I think that's really my jam. Locally, we like to paddleboard. We just started getting into some cycling. I like to go see and do new experiences, and if I could do more of it, I would.
Definitely. Now, tell me, what is the prettiest place that you have been scuba diving?
Scuba diving. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think probably Dominican Republic.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And we haven't, so we only get to go once or twice a year. It's usually we have a supplier trip that we get to go on every year, ABC Supply.
Mm-hmm.
And they pick the destination. So basically I've scuba wherever. Oh, we went to Roatan for
Okay.
our honeymoon
Mm-hmm.
and dove 5 days. That was amazing too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice. So is
that
your
might be the prettiest.
your favorite movie Jaws or Megalodon? Just messing around with
Shawshank Redemption.
you. Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, I love
Yes,
it.
yes, yes. I was joking about the scuba and the sharks, but thank you so much for sharing that. It is one of those things where we try to get the entrepreneurs that are watching the show to understand that there is a purpose behind doing all the hard work. That's why I
Yeah.
always ask the entrepreneurs, what would you do with your time? Because that's really why we're doing it, to take care of our responsibilities. If I remember correctly, daughter should be 17, 18 right now.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
17 going into her senior year. We're taking her to Europe this summer and for
nice.
her senior trip. And
Yeah, that's the reason why we do it, because you can tell the smile that came on your face when I mentioned that. So I try to get them to understand, hey, this is the reason why we do these things, and we try to go over these best practices because we want you to be successful for that.
and she's really why I did this, like,
Nice.
because I didn't want to miss her life. And so I haven't missed, the theater performances and the choir concerts, and because I had to be at work for a slave driver.
Got it. Got it. Now, tell me, if people that are watching today have questions about how to get you scheduled to come out do the roof inspection, or want to talk with you about some of those skills that you shared, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
The best way to get in contact for us for work is to contact my office, because if you come to me directly, I mess it up. So there's a web form on our website, rooferchicks.com. You can fill that out and we'll call you back, or calling us 830-629-7663. If you want to get a hold of me personally, you can also fill out that same web form and my office team will forward it to me. I just talked to a guy in Kansas yesterday about his ventilation. Um, or you can email me directly. My email's Amy, AMI, at rooferchicks.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we appreciate you coming on today and sharing. It's not always easy for people to get on and share their journey. So we want to honor you by giving you the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Well, you have me thinking about, I think the something good is, no matter how hard it is, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and you will get there.
That is awesome. Those are wise words from a wise woman. We definitely appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Excellent. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.